The front door was wide open. Two strong men in blue shirts were carrying my living room sofa toward a big truck outside. My family pictures were stacked in a box like they were old newspapers. My wedding photo was face down. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching from and subscribe so you can hear more stories like this. I stood on my porch in my church hat, holding my Bible with both hands, and my mouth would not close. Then I heard my son's voice, calm like he was talking about the weather. "Mom," he said, walking past me, "we're selling your house today." For 1 second, my heart felt like it fell through the floor. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not beg. I lifted my phone. I called 911. My son's eyes snapped to my hand. His smile disappeared. "Mom," he warned, stepping closer, "don't do that." I looked at him and said, "You do not get to take my home." The movers froze. One of them whispered, "Is everything okay, ma'am?" My son took another step, and his voice dropped low. "Hang up," he said. "Now." I held the phone tighter. The operator answered, and I spoke fast, my voice shaking but clear. "Hello. Someone is trying to remove my things from my house. I need help right now." My son reached toward my phone. And that was when I heard a soft click behind him. The front gate was closing, slow and careful, like someone wanted to trap us inside. I did not see who touched it. But I knew one thing. This was not just about a house. It was a plan. Now listen, and tell me something in your mind. What would you do if your own child tried to sell your home while you were at church? Because before I tell you who closed that gate, you need to know how we got here. My name is Margaret Hill. Most people call me Grandma Maggie. I am not rich. I am not famous. I am just a grandmother who loves her family, makes the best chicken soup on my street, and never misses Sunday service unless my legs truly refuse to move. That morning started like a normal Sunday. I woke up early. I drank warm tea and ate toast. I watered my small plants by the kitchen window. I checked the front door twice, like I always do, because I like things neat and safe. My house is not a mansion, but it is mine. It is the house my husband and I bought when we were young and brave. We painted the rooms ourselves. We fixed the roof one summer when money was tight. We planted the apple tree in the backyard the year our son turned 5. My husband, Harold, has been gone for 6 years now. Some days it feels like yesterday. Other days it feels like a whole lifetime. After Harold passed, people started giving advice like it was candy. Move in with your son, they said. Sell the house and get an apartment, they said. Stop living alone, they said. But I stayed. I stayed because the walls held my memories. I stayed because I can still hear Harold's laugh in the hallway when the house is quiet. I stayed because my home is not just wood and paint. It is my life. My only son's name is Daniel Hill. When he was small, he was sweet. He used to run into my arms after school and tell me every little thing he did, even the boring parts. He used to say, "Mom, when I grow up, I will buy you a big house." I would smile and say, "Just be kind, Daniel. That is enough." Daniel grew up. He got tall. He got smart. He also got busy. He moved to another town. He got a good job. He married a woman named Tracy. Tracy is neat, sharp, and always in a hurry. She smiles with her mouth, but her eyes stay serious. They have 2 children, my grandkids, Olivia and Ethan. I love them with my whole heart. When they visit, the house feels alive again. Olivia talks a lot, and Ethan likes to follow me around the kitchen like a little shadow. For a long time, things were fine. Then Daniel started changing. At first, it was little things. He stopped calling as often. When he did call, he sounded tired, even when it was early. One day he came over and looked around my living room like he was counting items. "You still keep all this?" he asked, pointing at my photo shelf. "Yes," I said. "Those are my memories." He nodded, but he did not smile. Another time, he said, "Mom, this house is a lot for you. I worry about you." I knew that line. I had heard it from many people. It can be kind. It can also be a way to push someone. "I am doing fine," I told him. "I know my own house." He sighed and said, "I just want what's best." I wanted to believe him. But then the help started feeling like pressure. Tracy began sending me messages. Have you thought about downsizing? Have you looked at retirement homes? This neighborhood is getting expensive. I did not reply to most of them. I did not want to argue. I also did not want to start a family fight. I thought if I stayed calm, the storm would pass. That is something I want you to remember. Staying calm is good, but staying silent when you are being pushed is not always wise. A week before the Sunday, Daniel came to my house in the evening. He sat at my kitchen table, and he did not even look at the pie I baked. Mom, he said, we need to talk about your future. I poured him coffee. My future is tomorrow morning and Sunday service, I said. He gave a quick laugh, but it sounded fake. No, really, you cannot live here forever. I can live here as long as I am alive, I replied. He leaned forward. Do you know how much this house is worth now? That question made my stomach twist. My house was not a prize. It was not a bag of money waiting to be grabbed. I do not care, I said. He looked frustrated. Mom, you do not understand. There are bills. There is school for the kids. There is the car. Prices are going up. We could use the money. My hands went still. I stared at him. You mean you could use my money? He opened his mouth, then shut it. Daniel, I said softly, your father and I worked for this house. We paid for it. We loved it. It is not a bank you can break open. His face turned hard for a moment, then he softened again. Mom, he said, I would never hurt you. I just need you to trust me. That line, trust me, sounded heavy. Like a stone. I did not say yes. I did not say no. I said, let us pray about it. He stood up too fast. Prayer will not pay bills, he snapped. Then he looked shocked at his own words. Sorry, he said quickly. I did not mean it like that. But he did. After he left, I sat at my table and stared at my hands for a long time. That night, I did something I had not done in years. I found my important folder. It held my house papers, my will, my husband's letters, everything that mattered. I checked that folder twice. I also checked the locks on my doors. And on Sunday morning, before church, I put that folder in the safest place I could think of. Then I went to church, trying to shake off the worry like dust. At church, people smiled and hugged me. The choir sang. The pastor preached about peace and courage. I prayed hard. I asked God to protect my home and my family. When service ended, I felt lighter. I thought maybe I was overthinking. Maybe Daniel would calm down. Maybe Tracy would stop pushing. I even bought a little pastry from the church bake sale to take home. I walked up my street with my Bible in one hand and the pastry in the other. And then I saw the truck. A big white moving truck in front of my house. 2 cars parked behind it. One of them was Daniel's. My steps slowed. I remember thinking, this cannot be real. I remember thinking, maybe they are helping me move a chair. Then I saw my curtains shifting in the front window. People inside my house. Strangers. That is when I started running. And now you are back at the moment I told you at the start. My son saying, we're selling your house today. My finger pressing call. The gate closing behind him. And someone I could not see controlling it. The operator was still on the line, asking me questions, and my son's hand was inches from my phone. Then one of the movers lifted a box, and I saw the label on it. It was written in black marker. Selling, take first. My heart jumped. Because I knew that label was not from any moving company. It was from someone who wanted my life packed up fast. And Daniel was not acting alone. The police siren sounded far away. But another sound came closer. Footsteps from inside my house. Slow steps. Confident steps. Coming toward the door. Coming toward me. Coming fast. The footsteps reached the doorway, and a woman appeared with my house keys in her hand. Tracy. She did not look surprised to see me. She looked annoyed, like I had walked in at the wrong time. Margaret, she said, using my first name the way people do when they want power. You're back early. My hand shook, but I did not drop my phone. Why do you have my keys? I asked. Daniel stepped in front of her. Mom, please, let's not make a scene. A scene, I repeated. My voice rose without me meaning to. You brought strangers into my house. You were carrying my things out like trash. And you are telling me not to make a scene. Tracy's lips pressed into a thin line. We're trying to help you, she said. You're older. This is too much house for you. Daniel and I already found buyers. It's done. The movers stared at the ground like they wished they could disappear. My chest burned. You found buyers for a house that is not yours. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the road. The siren sound was closer now. He leaned in, his voice tight. Mom, you called the police. Just hang up. We can talk. The operator was still on the line. Ma'am, officers are on the way. Are you safe right now? I'm on my porch, I said. My son and his wife are here. Movers are taking my things. Tracy waved one hand like she was shooing a fly. This is unnecessary, she snapped. We have paperwork. Paperwork, I said. Show it. Daniel swallowed. It's inside. Then bring it, I said. Right now. And do not touch my phone. For a moment, no one moved. The air felt thick, like before a storm. Even the movers stopped lifting boxes. Then Tracy turned and walked back into my house like she owned it. That hurt more than anything. Because every step she took across my floor felt like someone stepping on my husband's memory. I wanted to cry, but I remembered something my mother told me when I was a girl. Crying can wash your face, she said, but it cannot fix a problem. Use your mind first. So I stood straight. And I watched. Tracy came back holding a folder. She flipped it open like she was proud. See, she said, and shoved papers toward Daniel. Tell her. Daniel took the papers with both hands. His eyes moved across the page fast, like he did not want to read it too carefully. This is a sale agreement, he said. The buyer signed. The deposit came in. We just need your signature to finalize everything. I stared at him. My signature. So it's not done. Tracy's eyes narrowed. It will be done, she said. You'll sign. I will not, I said. Daniel's face changed. He looked tired, and for a second, he looked like the boy he used to be. Mom, he said quietly, please. We need this. I shook my head. You do not need my house. You want it. Tracy stepped closer, her voice sharp. Do you know how much we've spent on you? Daniel helps you. He checks on you. We bring the kids. You act like you're alone, but you're not. I felt my stomach twist again, but I did not look away. Bringing your children to see their grandmother is not payment, I said. Love is not a receipt. Tracy's cheeks flushed. You're being dramatic. The sirens were loud now. I could hear the police car turning onto my street. Daniel heard it too. His eyes flashed with panic. He grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to warn. Mom, he hissed, stop. Please. You're ruining everything. I pulled my arm back. You were ruining everything, I said. You chose money over your mother. His face tightened. You don't understand, he said. Tracy's father is expecting us to invest in his business. If we don't, he'll cut us off. We're trying to secure our future. I stared at him, confused and hurt at the same time. So you're selling my home to impress her father? Tracy snapped, don't bring my father into this. But it was too late. The truth was showing itself like a rip in a curtain. The police car stopped in front of my house. 2 officers stepped out. One was tall, one was shorter. Both looked calm, but alert. The tall officer walked up first. Ma'am, we got a call, he said. Are you the one who called? Yes, I said. My voice sounded steadier now that they were there. Tracy lifted her chin. This is a misunderstanding, she said quickly. We're family. The shorter officer looked at the movers, then at the boxes, then at the truck. Ma'am, he asked me, do these people have permission to remove property from your home? No, I said. Not today. Not ever. Daniel stepped forward with the papers. Officer, she's my mother. We're trying to help her move. We have documents. The tall officer held up a hand. Sir, let's slow down. Who owns the home? I do, I said. My name is on the deed. Tracy's eyes flicked to Daniel. Daniel looked down. The shorter officer asked, do you have identification, ma'am? I nodded and turned toward the open door, then stopped. Because Tracy was still holding my keys. And I suddenly realized something. If she had my keys, she could have taken my important folder too. My heart jumped again. The folder. The one with my house papers. My will. Everything that mattered. I pushed past them and stepped inside my house, moving faster than my knees wanted to. The living room looked wrong. Empty spots where my lamp usually sat. My rug rolled up halfway. Boxes everywhere. Dust in the air. "Ma'am," the officer said behind me, "please don't go alone. We need to keep everyone safe." But I could not wait. My folder was more important than my fear. I went straight to the place where I had hidden it. I opened the cabinet. The space was empty. I froze. My throat went dry. My skin turned cold. It was gone. I spun around and looked at Tracy. "Where is my folder?" I demanded. Tracy blinked slowly. "What folder?" "The one with my papers," I said. "My deed, my will, my documents." Daniel's eyes widened. "Tracy," he said, "what did you do?" Tracy's voice turned sweet, but her eyes stayed hard. "Calm down," she said. "Everything is under control." Under control. That phrase hit me like a slap. The tall officer stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said to me, "did you give anyone permission to enter your home today?" "No," I said. "I was at church." The shorter officer looked at the movers. "Stop work," he said firmly. "Step away from the truck." The movers obeyed quickly, like they were glad to have an excuse. Tracy made a small laugh, like this was silly. "Officers," she said, "this is family. No one is stealing anything. She's just confused." Confused. I hated that word. Old people hear it all the time when someone wants to take something from them. I looked straight at the officers. "I am not confused," I said. "My folder is missing. And she has my keys." Daniel reached for Tracy's hand. "Give the keys back," he whispered. Tracy pulled away. "Not until she signs," she said under her breath. I heard it. The tall officer heard it too. His face changed. "Ma'am," he said to Tracy, "hand over the keys right now." Tracy's eyes widened, then hardened again. "I didn't do anything wrong." "Keys," the officer repeated, his voice calm but stronger. Tracy slowly placed my keys into his hand. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She smiled. Not a happy smile. A knowing smile. And she said, "It doesn't matter. The buyer already has copies." My body went still. "Copies of what?" I asked. Tracy tilted her head. "The deed," she said softly. "The papers. Everything you kept hidden." Daniel stared at her like he had never seen her before. "Tracy," he whispered, "tell me you didn't." She shrugged. "We did what we had to do." The shorter officer stepped closer to me. "Ma'am," he said gently, "did you just hear her say she made copies of your deed without your permission?" "Yes," I said. My voice was shaking again. The tall officer turned to Tracy and Daniel. "All right," he said. "No one is leaving. We need to sort this out." Tracy's smile vanished. She took one step back. Daniel looked like he might fall apart. Then a loud honk blasted from outside. Everyone turned toward the window. A black car was parked near the moving truck, and a man in a suit was stepping out. He had a briefcase in his hand and a hard look on his face. Tracy's father. He walked up the driveway like he was late for something important. He didn't look at me kindly. He didn't look at Daniel like a son. He looked at my house like a prize. And then he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Why is the police here? The signing is in 10 minutes. My knees went weak. Because now I understood. This was bigger than Daniel and Tracy. They had invited someone powerful into my home. And he was not here to ask. He was here to take. Tracy's father did not wait for permission. He stepped past the gate like he owned the ground under his feet. His name was Richard Cole, and everyone in town knew it. He was rich, loud, and used to getting his way. He wore a dark suit even though it was a warm day, and his shoes were so shiny I could see my own face in them. He looked at the police officers, then at me, then at the boxes, and finally at Daniel. "This is a waste of time," Richard said. "We have a legal transaction scheduled. Buyers are waiting. Why are there uniforms here?" The tall officer stepped forward. "Sir, we're responding to a call from the homeowner. There are concerns about unauthorized entry and removal of property." Richard laughed once, short and sharp. "Unauthorized. This is family business." I found my voice again. "This is my house," I said. "You are not welcome here." He turned to me slowly, like he had just noticed a piece of furniture speaking. "Margaret, right?" he said. I've heard about you. Stubborn, emotional. But this is about what's best for everyone. What's best for you, I said. Daniel stood between us, his hands shaking. Sir, he said to his father-in-law, maybe we should pause. This isn't going how we planned. Richard's eyes hardened. Planned, he snapped. Daniel, I put my reputation on the line for you. I lined up buyers. I handled the paperwork. I told you this would be simple. Tracy stepped closer to her father. Dad, she's making it difficult. I looked at her. You stole my papers. She crossed her arms. We borrowed them. The shorter officer wrote something in his notebook. Ma'am, he said to Tracy, taking copies of a deed without the owner's permission is serious. Richard waved a hand. Let's not be dramatic. Copies don't change ownership, but they can be used to commit fraud, the tall officer said. That word, fraud, hung in the air like smoke. Daniel rubbed his face. I didn't know you copied the deed, he said to Tracy. You said we just needed Mom's signature. Tracy looked at him sharply. I said we needed to be prepared. Prepared to steal, I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Richard stepped forward again. Enough, he said. Margaret, you are alone in a big house. Daniel is your only son. Everything he does is for his family. You should be proud. I was proud, I said quietly. Before today. That seemed to surprise him. He tilted his head. You think this is betrayal? This is business. I shook my head. Homes are not businesses. They are promises. The officers exchanged a look. The tall one said, Sir, I'm going to need everyone to stay calm. No signing will happen today. Richard laughed again, louder this time. You can't stop a legal sale. You can, the officer replied, if the owner hasn't agreed. Richard's smile faded. Margaret, he said, lowering his voice, think carefully. This house could solve many problems for your son. If you fight this, you will make his life harder. That was his move. Guilt. I felt it press against my chest, heavy and painful. I thought of Daniel as a boy, holding my hand on his first day of school. I thought of the nights I stayed awake when he was sick. I thought of the years Harold and I worked so Daniel could have choices. Then I thought of my empty cabinet. My missing folder. My keys taken. My things boxed like they meant nothing. No, I said. It was a small word, but it felt strong. Daniel looked at me, tears in his eyes. Mom, please, he said. I messed up. I know that now, but we can fix it. Just stop the police. Let's go inside and talk. I wanted to believe him. But trust, once cracked, does not seal easily. Step away from me, the tall officer said suddenly. Richard had moved closer to Daniel, his hand gripping his shoulder too tightly. This is not your place, Richard snapped at the officer. It is, the officer said. You are interfering with an investigation. Richard's face turned red. Do you know who I am? Yes, the officer said calmly. A guest on this property. That made me want to smile, but my heart was still racing. The shorter officer spoke into his radio. Requesting additional unit, he said quietly. Tracy's eyes widened. Dad, she whispered, this is getting out of control. Richard glared at her. I told you to handle this. Daniel looked at Tracy. You said Mom would be at church longer, he said slowly. You said she wouldn't come back until afternoon. Silence. I turned to her. You planned this around my church time. She did not deny it. I needed a window, she said. You never leave the house except for church. That hurt more than any shout. The officers told everyone to step back. The movers were asked to sit on the curb. One of them kept saying, we didn't know, ma'am. We thought it was legal. I believed him. Then the tall officer turned to me. Ma'am, he said, do you feel safe right now? I opened my mouth to answer. And then I saw it. In Richard's hand. A small envelope. Brown. Worn. My name was written on it in my own handwriting. My stomach dropped. That's mine, I said. Richard looked down at the envelope, then back at me. This, he said. This was in the folder. Interesting reading. What did you do? Daniel asked, his voice breaking. Richard shrugged. I skimmed. Old will. Emotional stuff. My knees buckled, and I grabbed the back of a chair. That envelope, I said, contains my final wishes. Tracy looked confused. What wishes? I stared at Daniel. I updated my will last month. His face drained of color. Updated. Yes, I said. Because I felt something was wrong. Richard frowned. That won't matter if the house is sold. It will, I said. Because the house is not the only thing in it. The tall officer stepped closer to me. Ma'am, he said, what do you mean? I took a deep breath. That envelope explains everything. Who inherits what? And who gets nothing? Daniel's eyes filled with fear. Mom, what did you do? I looked at my son, really looked at him. I protected myself, I said. Richard scoffed. You think a will scares me? No, I said. But the truth might. The siren of another police car echoed down the street. Richard's jaw tightened. This has gone too far, he said. Daniel, we're leaving. Tracy grabbed his arm. Dad, wait. But Richard was already turning away. That is when Daniel did something I did not expect. He stepped in front of Richard. No, Daniel said. His voice was shaking, but firm. You're not leaving with that envelope. Richard stared at him. Move. No, Daniel repeated. Give it back. Tracy gasped. Daniel. The street went quiet. Even the birds seemed to stop. Richard's eyes burned with anger. You're choosing her over me. Daniel swallowed. I'm choosing what's right. For 1 second, I felt hope. Then Richard smiled. A cold smile. And he tore the envelope in half. Paper ripped loud and sharp. I screamed. The officers lunged forward. Tracy cried out. Daniel shouted, no. Pieces of my handwriting fluttered to the ground. Richard dropped them like trash. That, he said, changes nothing. But he was wrong. Because as the paper hit the floor, the shorter officer bent down and picked up a torn piece. He read it. Then he looked at me, his eyes wide. Ma'am, he said slowly, this mentions a second property. My heart slammed against my ribs. Daniel froze. Second property. I closed my eyes. Because the secret Herald and I had kept for 40 years was now in the open. And it was worth more than this house. Much more. The street felt too quiet after the officer spoke. A second property. Those words hung in the air like a bell that had been struck too hard. Richard's smile froze. Tracy stopped crying. Daniel stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. What second property? Daniel asked slowly. I opened my eyes. My heart was beating fast, but my mind was clear. Not everything my husband and I owned was written on this house, I said. Richard laughed, but this time it sounded forced. That's nonsense. You're trying to distract us. The shorter officer looked at the torn paper in his hand. Sir, he said, this document mentions land held under a trust. That's serious. Richard's face tightened. Give me that. The officer stepped back. No. Tracy looked at her father. Dad, what is he talking about? Richard ignored her. He looked straight at me. Where is it? He demanded. I straightened my back. Safe, I said. Daniel took a step toward me. Mom, he said softly, what land? I looked at my son. The boy I raised. The man who brought movers into my home. Before your father died, I said, we bought a small piece of land outside town. We never talked about it because we wanted peace. Richard's eyes lit up. How much is it worth? That question told me everything. It is not for sale, I said. Tracy grabbed Daniel's arm. You never told me about this, she whispered. I didn't know, Daniel replied, his voice shaking. Richard laughed again. This just proves my point. You've been hiding assets. That land belongs in the family plan. The family plan, I said. You mean your plan. The tall officer stepped between us. Sir, he said to Richard, you need to step back. This is escalating. Richard raised his hands. Fine. But this isn't over. He turned to Daniel. We'll talk later. Daniel didn't move. Later, Richard repeated, sharper. Daniel shook his head. No, we're talking now. That surprised everyone, including me. You pushed me into this, Daniel said. You said Mom would agree. You said it was easy. You lied. Richard's face darkened. Watch your tone. I lost my tone when you tore up my mother's will, Daniel snapped. Tracy gasped. Daniel. The officers moved closer. Sir, the shorter officer said to Richard, I'm going to need you to leave the property. Richard looked around, like he was counting enemies. I'll go, he said slowly. But this land will come up again. He walked to his car without another word. The street felt lighter when he left, but the damage stayed. The tall officer turned to me. "Ma'am," he said, "we're going to need a formal statement. And you may want a lawyer." "I already have one," I said. Daniel looked at me again. "You do?" "Yes," I said. "Since last month." Tracy's mouth opened. "You don't trust us at all, do you?" "I trusted you," I said. "You broke it." The movers were sent away. The truck pulled off. Boxes were brought back inside, slowly, carefully. The officers stayed while things settled. When the police finally left, the house felt strange. Quiet, but heavy. Daniel sat at my kitchen table like he used to when he was young. His shoulders were slumped. "I didn't think it would go this far," he said. "It always does," I replied, "when people chase money instead of truth." Tracy stood by the doorway, arms crossed. "So now what?" she asked. "Now," I said, "you leave." Daniel looked up fast. "Mom. Both of you," I said. "I need time." Tracy's face hardened. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." They left just before sunset. That night, I locked every door. I barely slept. In the morning, I went to see my lawyer, Mr. Howard. He listened carefully, his face serious. "They crossed several lines," he said. "Especially with the papers." "What about the land?" I asked. "It's secure," he said. "But now that others know, you need to be careful." Careful. I returned home feeling tired but steady. Around noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Margaret," a man said calmly, "this is David Knox. I represent the buyers of your home." My heart skipped. "My home is not for sale." "I understand," he said. "But we need to discuss the land." I said nothing. "We know where it is," he continued. "And there may be complications." I hung up. An hour later, another call. Another unknown number. Then a knock at the door. I looked through the window. 2 men stood outside. Not movers. Not police. Suits. I did not open the door. "Mrs. Hill," one of them called, "we just want to talk." "No," I said through the door. They left after a few minutes. That evening, I went to check my backyard. The apple tree stood quiet in the wind. But something was wrong. The small wooden marker near the fence was gone. The one Harold placed years ago. My heart raced. I ran inside and opened a drawer. The second copy of the land map. Gone. I sat down hard on the chair. They had been in my house again. I grabbed my phone to call the police. Before I could dial, a message came in. From Tracy. "You should have signed. Now things are bigger than family." Then another message. From Daniel. "Mom, please answer. I think they're using us." And then a final message. From an unknown number. "You should come see the land tomorrow. Before decisions are made for you." My hands shook. Because I knew what that meant. They were no longer asking. They were moving again. And this time, they weren't coming for the house. They were coming for everything. I did not sleep that night. Every small sound felt loud. Every shadow felt wrong. I sat in my chair with the lights on until morning, my Bible open but my eyes unable to rest on the words. At sunrise, I made a decision. I would go to the land. Not because I was afraid. But because running from danger never stops it. Facing it does. The land was about 40 minutes away. Harold and I bought it when Daniel was still in school. It was quiet, surrounded by tall trees and old fencing. We planned it as something simple. A place to leave behind. A place meant to protect, not to sell. When I arrived, I knew something was wrong. A black car was already parked near the dirt road. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I stayed inside my car for a moment, breathing slowly, reminding myself that fear only wins when it controls your choices. Then I stepped out. 2 men stood near the fence. One of them was David Knox, the man who had called me. The other man wore boots and held rolled papers in his hand. "Mrs. Hill," David said calmly, "thank you for coming." "I didn't come for you," I replied. "I came for my land." He smiled slightly. "That's what this is about." I walked closer but stopped at the fence. "You have no right to be here." "Actually," he said, "we do. Temporarily." The man with the boots unrolled the papers. "We've submitted a development interest request," he said. "Nothing final. But things move fast once money is involved." "Money does not erase ownership," I said. David nodded. "True. But pressure can change minds." I stared at him. You're threatening me. No, he said smoothly. I'm informing you. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I've already spoken to my lawyer. David's smile faded a little. Then you know how complicated this could become. I also know, I said, that touching what is not yours always leaves fingerprints. The man with the boots shifted. David sighed. Mrs. Hill, your son and his wife put us in contact. They told us you were difficult. My chest tightened, but my voice stayed firm. They lied. Perhaps, he said. But now we're all here. I looked at the land. The trees. The quiet. The place Harold believed would outlast greed. You won't get this, I said. Not today. Not ever. David studied me. You're stronger than they said. I had to be, I replied. I raised a child. He paused. Then you also know children make mistakes. That was his final move. I took a step back. This conversation is over. As I turned toward my car, I heard tires crunching on gravel. Another car arrived. Daniel's car. He stepped out fast, his face pale. Mom, he said, don't listen to them. They lied to me. They said the land was already half sold. David raised an eyebrow. We said no such thing. Daniel spun toward him. You said she'd sign once she saw the numbers. David shrugged. People hear what they want. I looked at my son. You brought them to me. Tears filled his eyes. I thought I was helping my family. I didn't see what they were doing. That, I said quietly, is how people lose everything. Daniel walked closer to me. Mom, I'm sorry. Truly. I'll fix this. Before I could answer, a third car appeared. A police vehicle. My lawyer stepped out of it. Mr. Howard. David's calm finally cracked. Mrs. Hill, Mr. Howard said, I'm glad you waited. I didn't, I said. But I stood my ground. He nodded. Good. Because this land is fully protected. Trust documents. Restrictions. Clauses. Any attempt to force a sale triggers a legal investigation. David's face went stiff. That wasn't disclosed. It wasn't required, Mr. Howard replied. You should have done your homework. The man with the boots rolled the papers back up quickly. David took a breath. Then this ends here. Yes, Mr. Howard said. It does. David turned to Daniel. You told us she was alone. Daniel looked down. David got into his car and drove off without another word. The second man followed. The land went quiet again. Daniel stood beside me. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. But I want to earn it. I looked at him. That takes time. And truth. He nodded. The police officer spoke softly. Ma'am, if anyone contacts you again, call us immediately. I will, I said. As they left, I stayed for a while, listening to the wind through the trees. This land was never meant to make us rich. It was meant to teach us something. I turned to Daniel. There is a lesson here, I said. Power without respect destroys families. He nodded slowly. I see that now. I got into my car. As I drove away, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from Tracy. You chose land over blood. I did not reply, because I finally understood something important. Blood does not give anyone the right to take your life from you. Respect does. And when respect is gone, silence and strength are the only answers left.